do you think?
We start thinking about the things we're missing. We forget about the things we have.
Don't forget to take a shower before bed. I'll be home before you get up.
What? What do you think?
We start thinking about the things we're missing. We forget about the things we have.
Don't forget to take a shower before bed. I'll be home before you get up.
What? What do you think?
We start thinking about the things we're missing. We forget about the things we have.
Don't forget to take a shower before bed. I'll be home before you get up.
What do you think?
We start thinking about the things we're missing. We forget about the things we have.
Don't forget to take a shower before bed. I'll be home before you get up.
What? What do you think?
We start thinking about the things we're missing. We forget about the things we have.
Don't forget to take a shower before bed. I'll be home before you get up.
What? What do you think?
We start thinking about the things we're missing. We forget about the things we have.
Don't forget to take a shower before bed. I'll be home before you get up.
What do you think?
We start thinking about the things we're missing. We forget about the things we have.
Don't forget to take a shower before bed. I'll be home before you get up. What?
What do you think?
We start thinking about the things we're missing. We forget about the things we have.
Don't forget to take a shower before bed. I'll be home before you get up. What?
What do you think?
We start thinking about the things we're missing. We forget about the things we have.
Don't forget to take a shower before bed. I'll be home before you get up.
Welcome to another episode of Dissecting Horror, the virtual panel series from Dread Central, where we talk to today's most talented up-and-coming filmmakers and look at today's most exciting films as they are released. Tonight, it's all about The Djinn, just released this Friday from IFC Midnight. The Djinn is about a mute boy who inadvertently summons a supernatural entity. It's a fight for survival, supernatural thriller that I honestly think you guys are all gonna love. So check out The Djinn on VOD now, and let me tell you who I've got here in the panel. I'm joined by David Charbonier, co-writer, co-director of The Djinn. How are you, David?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having us.
Oh, thank you for being here. Congratulations on your film. We're here with your partner in crime, co-writer, co-director, Justin Powell. How are you, sir?
Hello, I'm well too. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. So glad you could both join us. Can't wait to do a deep dive, talk about this film you've made and about your collaborative process. We're also lucky enough to be joined by the film's cinematographer, Julián Estrada, all the way from South America. What's going on, man?
Hello, guys. What's up?
You are literally on the move. You are literally in motion as we speak. But can't wait to hear what you're working on. Can't wait to talk about The Djinn, and so happy that you're able to make it. And fucking technology is great.
My
Look
pleasure.
at you, man. Cross continents.
Yeah.
For this little virtual reunion celebration of The Djinn. We're also here with the film's composer, Matthew James. How are you, big guy?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing fantastic. We love having composers on these panels to give a really unique insight into the film, hear another aspect of the creative process. So thank you so much for being here. Last but certainly not least, we have the film's star, Ezra Dewey. You play Dylan in The Djinn. How's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm fantastic, and I've got to tip my hat to you from the get-go. What people are going to realize early on in The Djinn, after just about 10 minutes, is that you really carry this film on your shoulders. You're a young man. You're even younger when you movie. Has to have been a huge responsibility. Damned if you don't pull it off, So congratulations on the film. You're a very talented young man. And if you like horror movies, I think you're going to have a really long, lucrative career in the industry. So thank you so much for being here, amigo.
Thank you for having me.
Right on, right on. So yeah, let's get started. David and Justin, kind of both of you, tell us a little bit about how you got the idea for this supernatural creeper. Maybe fill us in a little bit on the origins of the Djinn in mythology.
Well, yeah, it's really interesting how we got this idea. It came out of one of our other movies getting pushed, actually. And so we decided that we were kind of resolute on making something. This is back in 2018. So we're like, we don't care that's something that, we have to wait on this other one. We have to get something made this year. And so we scraped together everything we could to, all of our resources. We knew at that time we had found Ezra on during the audition process for the other movie. And he was incredible, and we're like, okay, well, we gotta go with him. We also had access to an apartment, and so we actually, for the first time, built backed into it. So knowing what resources we had, created a story around those resources, and so it was really a really interesting process that led to something really exciting. So
Sure did. Anything to add, David? Tell us a little bit about this Djinn entity. Where do Djinns come from?
Well, Justin and I are really big fans of, the genre. We're really big movie buffs. And, we grew up watching horror movies from the 70s and the 80s. And that's sort of our biggest inspiration. Djinns, exist in many different cultures. There's many different iterations. We grew up seeing Wishmaster and obviously Aladdin, but we kind of wanted to try to come up with something that we hadn't seen before, that would fit sort of the scope of, the production, but also really fit narratively with what we thought our character would want thematically. And yeah, I think we kind of sort of expanded on it a bit to sort of fit our vision, and came up with hopefully a different, interesting version of a Djinn.
Well, I think you did. There are aspects of it that I really liked, and we won't go too deep into those just for the sake of spoilers, but I think you did some really, really creative things. And what I love about what you guys just revealed is the fact that, this was kind of just like at the time, it sounds like this is just kind of a placeholder for you guys. You had something else that you seem to have been more invested in, and you were just kind of doing this because you were amped up anyway. And you produce something really amazing, and artists sometimes like that, where the things you do in between what you think are the big things actually take on a life of their own and become super significant in and of itself. And it seems like that's what happened. It doesn't surprise me that you were like, oh, it's got to be Ezra. I mean, it's not a spoiler to reveal that the main character is mute, which adds a whole nother level to the character, to the situation, and to the skills required. Ezra, was it super daunting to go into this knowing that you weren't going to be able to talk at all, that you were going to be doing all your communicating with your face and being expressive like that?
Yeah, it definitely was going to be a big challenge for me, because like I was never gonna think that I would have to do an entire movie just with my face and not talking or being able to do anything. But it was really cool because like I got to learn some sign language that I forgot. But
Yeah, you nailed it. You nailed that too. I mean, it was very impressive.
yeah, and but I was also kind of relieved because I was like, oh, I don't have to like do any lines. I can just like wing it and just like kind of like go off of what Justin and David are telling me, which they did an extremely good job. They made it very clear to me. And yeah, it was cool. It was different and it was unique.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I imagine the script was what, like 10 pages long, or did you even have a script?
Yeah, they sent me a script a little bit before we were gonna shoot the movie, and me and my mom got to read it through, and we were like, "Oh my god, this is insane. This is creepy."
Yeah, yeah. Guys, I mean, they always say, directors, never work with kids and animals, but I can't imagine that you had any problems working with this talented young man. What was it like? How does he take direction?
Yeah, it was like Ezra made our job easy. That's what we kind of always say, I guess. Like we had very little time on set. When you're working with children, especially at the time, I think Ezra, you were 12, right? I think then.
Yeah, I was either 12 or 11, something like that.
Yeah,
Wow, incredible.
yeah, I think you were just turning 12 or something. There was something where, yeah, he was a lot younger. And when you're that age, especially as an actor, you have even more limited hours. So we had really 5 actual working hours with Ezra a day. And so like there isn't time to, get a whole bunch of takes and like, really, perfect everything just like down to the, these little nitty gritty details. Unfortunately, like Ezra just nailed it on like the first take every time. And so anytime we wanted to like, go beyond that, it was just like, oh, well, we just want an extra option. So, so it was just, I don't know, that was really refreshing and awesome. Like it made because this is our first feature. So it really made that an enjoyable experience for us.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
he even made my work way easier, He just looks
Yeah.
great on camera. Yeah, if I want to be banal, he just looks good when you point something at him, whatever lens you throw on,
Mm-hmm.
And he's just so good at conveying emotions with his face. I think a movie with a mute protagonist is amazing for a DP because we don't like shooting dialogue. We like shooting images that tell the story. And Ezra is amazing because he helps you with that a lot, you know, just his face and what he goes through emotionally.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Absolutely,
Awesome.
absolutely. And you know, something else that you just hit on, Julián, which I'd like to elaborate on a little more, is space, because that's one of the really amazing things about the Djinn. You know, it's this cat and mouse that takes place indoors. Normally, something like this would be happening in a castle or a mansion, you know, some sort of Gothic interior. But you did so much with what I assume was just a normal 2-bedroom apartment. You made such great use of that space. So was it challenging as a cinematographer? And was it an enjoyable challenge if it was?
Yeah, I don't know about enjoyable. I think I was very nervous about things working. But I mean, I'm not such a big fan of the genre. But these guys are just like so talented. They were really made me have confidence in what was going to happen. Space evolves, like how the space looks should evolve during the film, and I think we really do achieve that, no? Because it starts as a normally lit night interior, and then things change. I don't know if I want to spoil the movie for people, but so you know, there even in a really tiny apartment, there's a visual progression that's very important to tell the story. But definitely, I mean, these guys are the experts on horror and suspense and all that. So they really helped my cinematography look good for sure.
Well, you know, clearly it takes a really talented team to make these things happen, you know, and clearly you had a great team. You know, I love the fact that we're seeing more and more of these director-writer teams, you know, as opposed to people going it alone, because, you know, I'm just a real fan and proponent of collaboration. I love it when you see something that's greater than the sum of its parts, and there's that energy that you only get when you're bouncing ideas off other people. And having a great team like this was clearly a big component of your success. And that team includes Matthew James, who, you know, also had a lot to do with creating the horror and suspense along with everyone else involved. Matthew, like I said, I love having composers and musicians participate in these panels, because I just want to know, like, what your process was and how was it working with David and Justin, you know, communicating the sound and the vibe that everyone wanted.
It was great. I think, you know, when you get on board with any new filmmakers for the first time, you're establishing a language. And I met them, God, it's been 2 years, guys, now since I met you.
Yes,
give or take. Yeah, I met them through, as they mentioned before, Ryan from Kanogo. I was working on another film with him prior to, and he came onto the Djinn, and that's kind of what ushered me into meeting them. I did some demos, and then we were to condense and off to the running. I think the hardest part is like when you're, like I said, learning a new set of filmmakers and the language. But once we established where we were going to go, we had a lot of fun with it.
Excellent.
Some of the scenes that I saw, like, were so much better with the music. Like, I'd seen scenes like without any music, just like playback and stuff. And when they actually put the music and showed me, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, even when the music and the stuff wasn't always like finished fully, it still just made it just like 10 times better and like 10 times more scary than it would have been. It was insane.
Yeah, high praise indeed.
Thank you so much.
What was the process
Appreciate
like working with David and Justin? Did you guys all, you know, get on Zoom together and talk about specific elements, or did you just kind of like let Matthew run with it? How'd it go?
Well, okay, I guess. Well, whatever.
Well, this is pre-COVID, right? So,
oh yeah, that's true.
We still had humanity to
right.
You know, meet at the studio.
Yeah, it was nice because we actually all got to meet in person, and we had these really great sessions at Matthew's studio, and it was just like, it it was such a great process. I mean, David and I are both huge score nuts, so we kind of had the same reaction that Ezra did, where we were like, okay, this is pretty good. And then like we'd come in and Matthew would have all these like demos ready to go, and we'd just be like floored, like, oh my God, this is like our movie's actually starting to look good. And it's like it was really, really exciting seeing that come together. And he's also just like so versatile. Like even when you're watching the movie, like you can just see all that, like you feel this like journey just through the score. And like that's why I think I'm really excited I already pre-ordered like the score album like weeks ago.
Yeah, so it's coming out. When's it coming out?
Friday.
Friday, the score.
21st.
So after you see the film, you'll be able to get yourself the score, which I agree is fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, right on. David, let's talk a little bit about what it was like shooting a film in a single location. Was that always kind of the plan, or did it just work out that way? And what are some of the kind of the benefits and drawbacks of keeping a story so tightly contained?
Yeah, totally. Well, to add on to what Justin was just saying, I also agree. Working on the score with Matthew is probably the highlight of the whole process.
Yeah, cheers to him.
It was like a relief for us.
These guys, make me blush.
In terms of coming up with a story, in a single location, that was just really built out of necessity, and what we had at our disposal in terms of resources. When we've come up with stories, this one and other ones in the past, we are heavily influenced by like the location or the setting we have in mind. We like to be really specific with like a floor plan and a layout. So knowing the apartment that we had, we were really able to build the sequences and the suspense around that. Like this room connects that room, and you have this area that could be for hiding, and then also just thinking of things that are just organically within the apartment that could be used. We wanted Dylan to be a very resourceful character. For us, really, I don't think there is a limitation in terms of sort of the scope, but there's not a limitation in terms of sort of the creativity you can sort of try to muster with what you have. So in that regard, it was really a fun process. And then it was, building on that, it was fun when we were able to bring Julián in and really, walk the space with him and talk about sort of how we want to shoot this. How can we make a very boring looking apartment interesting? Can we, use different interesting angles, interesting lighting? And Julián was really great thinking outside the box with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I gotta say, like, it resonated with me personally. I'm from Los Angeles, and I didn't grow up in a house. I grew up in an apartment, so it really kind of struck a chord with me. And I think a lot of people, because, you always hear about the haunted house, you don't hear about the haunted apartment, and for you guys to have convincingly carved out that little space, it felt, like I said, resonated with me personally. And it didn't seem like the film was lacking for anything for being so self-contained. Rather, it seemed really well done for pulling off something like this within such tight parameters. So congratulations on that. Ezra, gotta talk to you a little bit more. Your character was complicated, and this wasn't an easy role because you had to do a lot more than just look scared. You had to look scared, but I mean, you had to get emotional. There were some really emotional stuff. You had to endure some injuries. I mean, did you feel kind of like pushed to your limit, having to achieve all these different convincing emotions again without the standard dialogue?
Yeah, it was very tough, but it was tough, but it also was pretty easy because we had a really good stunt director, and coordinator, actually, I should say, stunt coordinator. And when we were going through those physical scenes with the Djinn and stuff like that, he made it super easy and very like, okay, you need to do this, and he explained it, and he had somebody showing me how to do it. And it was super, super fun, but it was also very challenging because it was my first movie and I've never done anything like this before, and it was totally awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Was it tough for you to do some of the more emotional scenes, not just thinking about your absent mother, but you have a very complicated relationship with the father in the film too. There's a lot of depth necessary to convey.
Yeah, that was also tough. When I was getting into those emotional scenes, I would have to think about like kind of messed up things and things that you would have never really want to thought about ever. But during the fact Justin and David made it like super clear, and they were just like, okay, you did a very good job. Can we just get like a little bit more or like a little bit less or something like that? And they made it super easy for me to get in that zone, and they would like make everybody be like, shh, let him do his thing. Everybody be quiet so he can get in the zone and stuff like that. So
no, you nailed it, my man, and that's why I'm just so impressed with your entire performance, and I think you're going to have a really successful career. Matthew, Julian had mentioned as a cinematographer, he kind of liked the fact that there was less dialogue because the cinematographer likes images. Was it similar for you as the composer? And did you feel with a mute protagonist that there were times where you were actually the voice of the character?
Certainly, yeah. We definitely, because of the nature of the film, it was very clear from the get-go there was gonna be a lot of music, and it was gonna play an integral role. And I've been asked the question before if that's like daunting or if it's a kind of a compositional dream. It's a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B, because oftentimes, like when you're doing films that are very heavy in dialogue, you kind of just sense the music. A lot of times it's truly underscore. And this kind of situation is unique because it almost like, obviously it's not a silent film, but if this makes sense, it almost plays like a silent film in that regard, where, barring, Will Taverneau sound design and all the other things going on and the VFX and things, this is music and performance. So yeah, and I mean, the difficult part about it, I felt, was how subtle and how it grows through the story, and then it suddenly just explodes and it's just insanity and chaos. So and the guys, Justin and David, really made it very clear, like it's going to go from a tiny little whisper to a roar. So it was a challenging film, but at the end of the day, it's interesting, even though, like, doing the getting the soundtrack together, going back and like, wow, how did we do that? So it's kind of surreal, but yeah, no, it was a joy as far as that goes to be, I suppose, on the center stage with the score like that, and it being that important is a blessing, because it's not always like that, as you know.
Right. And you mentioned something that is one of the great things about the film. It does build. It really builds, and I've seen a lot of horror movies, and there was a young actor, so I don't know if maybe I set my expectations, down here, but it definitely builds. And I was, out loud just like, wow, am I really seeing this when it hits those notes? So I mean, excellent use of restrained filmmaking to really deliver some powerful punches later on. I want to go back to Julián, and you did mention a little earlier about the film's lighting. and kind of the journey through, you know, lighting. It is a very noteworthy part of the film, something that I noticed very much. You know, in the beginning, it does feel almost like a little overexposed, you know. But like I said, as someone who grew up living in apartments with, you know, fluorescent lights, you know, it fit, you know, but it definitely goes some places where the mood is very affected by the lights, and the lighting completely changes. There's some very colorful scenes, you know, you have scenes by candlelight. Tell us a little bit more about your approach to that. And I think it's okay to talk about it to a certain level, because I do want people to pay attention, and maybe you could just give us some breadcrumbs to help walk us through what we're going to experience.
Sure. I guess I can start saying that pre-production was pretty important in that sense, because you know, David, especially him, he has a very keen sense of the image and production design and all that. And so me and him, we really decided what kind of lamps we wanted in the house and where to place them. You know, didn't we? And we went back and forth, and we tried some things out, and we tested some lamps. Because for me, I mean, we did have some a small lighting crew and some gear, but the whole idea of moving the camera throughout the apartment so much, which is something that the directors really wanted, it was really important to me to be able to use as much practicals as possible. I'm not going to say natural light, because it wasn't natural, it's just practicals. So placing those practicals in strategic positions and choosing the right bulbs and all that was pretty important for the film, at least for the first half. And I think we really nailed it. No, one of my favorite images is him and his dad eating supper at the beginning of the film.
It's a great scene. It's a great scene.
It's such a beautiful scene. It's so I don't know, so softly lit, and it's sad and cute, and also heartwarming. I don't know, at the same time. And it really is all about how you place and where you place the lights, and what lights you turn on and what lights you turn off and all that. I mean, there was a little supplemental lighting, but the main light is something that's just above them on the kitchen, which David found. I think you found that lamp, right, David? He would just like go to Home Depot or go to Amazon and like pick up a whole bunch of lamps, and I would like, no, I don't like this. I don't like this. Let's use this one. And he was awesome in that way. He really helped shape how the movie looks because of that. Yeah, and well, then we get into like, you know, flashlight stuff and like candlelight stuff, which I love. You know, it's always beautiful when the characters hold the main source of light, because you can play with that light so much. If you have a flashlight, you can do so many cool things, you know.
Right.
It's just such a versatile, and a candlelight is similar. And you always have to know what moment you want to play and how you play it, and use a little supplemental lighting, but it I don't know, it's just really cool. And again, Ezra really did a good job. He just pointed the flashlight exactly at where we wanted it to be pointed at, which was awesome. I don't know, what else can I say about the lighting? I mean, I would love David to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, David.
Lighting. I mean, that was a really fun part of the pre-production process, you know, discussing like what lights to use. We really wanted to keep it practical because we did want to have a naturalistic feel, but we also didn't have a lot of money to spend on studio lights. So that was a huge factor. And yeah, Julián would veto a lot of the lights, but when we did find something that like worked, you know, it was usually the best, the option, because, you know, we had considered a lot of different things. It's funny, Julián, you say your favorite lighting scene is the more happy, dramatic moment, because you don't like...
I didn't say my most favorite. I said a moment I really liked. Or did I say that? I can't remember.
Something like that.
I don't have a more favorite moment. I just really like that scene.
Yeah, I love all the candlelight scenes.
Yeah.
You know, him in the closet with the candlelight and him going through the apartment. Like, there's no light, it's just the candle, and it's so like effective. Really,
yeah, I mean, it looks amazing. It looks like $1 million.
I mean, I remember there was a part that I was always like curious about how we were actually going to shoot it. And with the candle sequence where, don't want to spoil it, but where like Dylan is trying to figure out a way to put it out essentially. And I mean, Julian came up with that to do it like practically. And like, I mean, that was something where I was convinced that we were going to have to do some kind of like visual effect or something. But like that scene when you guys are watching it, like, and you see something, it goes out and then it reappears, like that all happened one take, like in camera. That is not a visual effect. And it's just because like he was so strategic with like where the lights were with the candle light specifically, so that like you couldn't see certain glows in other areas where you could only see it like when it was closer to the camera, and then once that one was gone it would appear somewhere else. It was really, really clever. And so like, I don't know, just it forced, I think, everyone, like this movie, with us having such tight constraints, to just be really creative and like, you know, really push ourselves in a whole bunch of different ways. And yeah, it was really like all those, and also just like all the takes that you see throughout the apartment where it's like, we've had some questions where people have been like, did you stitch those shots together? Or like, you know, was that, you know, where like, you know, you have shots that literally go through the entire apartment in one take. It's like, no, Julian figured out a way to actually get those whole things in like one take. We didn't have to do any stitching in post. I edited it, so I know we did not stitch it.
Amazing.
It's like just one take, which made my life a lot easier when we got to that process. And I don't know, it was just really, some of those things were absolutely crazy that we were able to pull them off.
Yeah. Ezra.
So with the scenes of like going out throughout the entire apartment and stuff, obviously we had like David's house and stuff for like other people to hang out, kind of, because we're right next to the apartment. So people are just like, okay, we'll just sit here and wait for our turn. But we also, with the crew that was in the house while we were shooting, in those big scenes where we were walking around and shooting like the entire house, people had to like hide from the camera because they couldn't always be behind Julian because he would like look around and do all that stuff. So when I'd walk into rooms with like the candlelight, people would be hiding in like the shadows, like barely out of view of the camera. And I would have to like be like, okay, there's that person, but I have to stay focused and focus on this act. And it was really funny to think about when I was watching the movie that like, oh God, this person was right there.
Yeah, that's wild. And it's just another testament to, you know, Julian's amazing work and, you know, the great direction from you guys. Something that has been hinted at a couple times that I think is worth circling back to is just that there are some really heartwarming aspects to this film. And it's scary. This film is really, really scary. But at the same time, there are these, you know, really just wonderful moments, the relationship between the father and son. Justin, tell us a little bit about your approach to those scenes and, you know, why you felt it was important to really take time to nurture these more dramatic elements in your horror film.
Yeah, those were some of the best scenes to shoot. I think with like the concept and the conceit of the film in general, since we did, you know, build everything backwards, we really got to come at it from a character perspective. And so everything just came out of like figuring out who Dylan is and like, you know, creating his backstory. Like David and I, as filmmakers, it's really important to us to always have a strong emotional core. We think that the best horror movies are ones that are centered on characters that you really, really care about. But it's this tricky dynamic where we also don't like a lot of exposition. So we're like, we really want people to care about the characters, but at the same time, we don't want to like bog them down with like a long, like complicated backstory. And so, you know, just having that dynamic between Michael and Dylan, really, I think, you know, we were able to create in just a few scenes, you know, that strong bond that really attaches you to Dylan. And also we knew that we kind of wanted the film to feel a little bit like a dark fairy tale, and those kind of always have a little moral to the story. And so we were able to kind of work that in there while also building the emotional core. And so that was all of that was really woven into like the first part of like coming up with the film. And then it was actually after that we even decided like, okay, what is the organic villain to fit into this story? And that's why we started researching and figured out like, okay, a Djinn seems actually like the most logical villain to go with. So everything actually came out of like looking at it from a character's perspective. And so that I think is maybe why the emotional core resonates a little bit more, because that was really the focus of the film when we were coming up with it.
Well, I think you did an amazing job, and I'm glad you incorporated that element. It makes the film a lot more meaningful, and it adds heft. No spoilers, of course, but these relationships are certainly put to the test, and it's beautiful, it's harrowing, it's scary. It's the Djinn. It's available on VOD now from IFC Midnight. Tons of questions, guys. It seems like a lot of people have seen the film, talking along, giving you props the whole time, and some really good questions popping up as well. Here's one for David and Justin both. Did anything unexpected happen after you began shooting that you had to rearrange the schedule for?
There was one thing. So, as we've been saying, we had a very small budget on this project, but we've been lucky enough to, be able to work with really super talented, amazing people on our team. One of them is our special effects and makeup artist, Gage Hubbard. He's like a rock star, incredible. You should look him up. He's done some really cool stuff. And he came up with the awesome design for the Djinn. Unfortunately, we didn't really have a lot of money to give him to really sustain that design throughout, the whole movie. So we sort of had to pare back and really focus on specific scenes. And that meant sort of reworking things sort of midway through to have different iterations of the Djinn that we see throughout. Initially, it actually would have been the Djinn much, much more.
Oh, interesting, because again, not to give anything away, but that it's almost like there is this really wonderful reveal, and the fact that we see different iterations of this entity. Hope we're not spoiling. No, I think it's all right. I mean, without context, see this movie. But very, very creative. Those are like some of the most creative aspects of the film. So, nothing comes off as done for necessity. It all feels really natural. So, just congratulations again. Someone did ask, and you kind of just touched on it about the special effects. Tell us a little bit more about all the special effects, because they were really well done.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's really just once again hitting on like Gage's great work. And it's cool because of that, the issue of us having limited funds, he had to rework on his end, like, because he had, been preparing for, having this monster in it throughout. Like there was still going to be an iteration, a very important iteration of the Djinn. That was something that was planned earlier on, but without spoiling it. But the other ones he wasn't necessarily prepared for, and he had to work on those really on the fly, like really quickly. And so it's just a testament to his great like work that he was able to do that so quickly and adjust and like roll with the punches that we kind of needed him to. And yeah, there's also obviously Dylan really goes through it throughout the movie, and Gage did some really, really great work there to make sure that you really feel the kind of pain that he's going through. It's pretty brutal at times.
It is. And, again, let's go back to Ezra, because, someone was asking, first of all, do you like horror movies?
Yeah, I do like them.
Yeah.
I like them more now, obviously. Before I was just like, I'm kind of a baby. I don't really want to have nightmares. but now that I like see how it operates and like I've seen myself in them, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I want to watch more of these.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Well, what have you seen so far?
I haven't seen a ton, but I'm going to. I've watched this, obviously. I've watched like, well, Stranger Things isn't really like a horror.
Sure, yeah, there's horror in there. It's a great hybrid.
I've watched it, obviously, both of them.
Yeah, there you go. Stephen King, good stuff, good stuff. Well, the question was, were your parents worried having you be in a horror movie, in a role that required some really difficult acting?
No, they weren't worried. They were actually more like excited for me to do it. They were like, because they were thinking like, oh, you've been doing like all this Nickelodeon stuff for like Criminal Minds, but they were like, oh, you get to do like a horror film. You should go and get this job. This is awesome.
That's all. I like your
So,
parents. That's some good parenting, in my opinion.
Mhm.
That's fantastic. Well, I'd like I've been saying all along, I'd love to see you in more horror movies. I think you got a real gift, and I'm still marveling about how much you conveyed without dialogue. I mean, what a challenging role. You nailed it. Y'all nailed it. Y'all did something really impressive. Every time I hear indie filmmakers talk about, making concessions or having to work within limitations, it really just impresses the hell out of me, because your film didn't look lacking for anything. It just looked fantastic. So many great elements to that film, and someone gave your parents some big thumbs up, Ezra. So yeah, we dig your parents for letting you make the Djinn. Fantastic film. Matthew, what was your favorite scene to score and why?
Oh wow. Well, I don't know. I mean, from the standpoint of like something different for me to do, I would say this is the sequence where I don't know if I should say, it's gonna be spoiling things.
You can hint it.
I could dance around it.
Yeah.
Well, let's just say, yeah, one of the times that Dylan gets away, when I get to break into a true kind of like 8-bit 80s kind of chip tuney kind of jam that's like a recapitulation of Dylan's main theme. I thought that was a lot of fun for me, because it was like more of a song like kind of hybrid as opposed to just like overt score.
Sure.
But there's so many moments with it, honestly, because like coming into the film, it's the simplicity of it. The film I was coming off of before getting into the Djinn was just like this action adventure traditional score to like I said, I think it's like a, not to get technical, but it's like a 35 decibel range from nothing to boom, like here we're in the film, and that like that challenge, like it's literally like 2 notes. It's like a diatonic like, and it was like to feather that in with the sound design and like the kind of like the rumbly synth thing, and the strings start to build, and I don't know, like the opening, I mean, but it was all really fun. It was really fun to develop the thematic materials just in general, and the way that we use them in very different ways, I felt throughout. It was cool to change. It's like a hybrid. It really leans on, like the Yamaha synths and things from the 80s, the era like Arturia.
Right. I was going to mention that, it's worth mentioning that it takes place in the 80s, and that you incorporate that era into the supernatural soundscape. Yeah,
very vintage in that regard, but I think like in a different and a good way, in a nice marriage of using orchestral elements, the strings and whatnot. So that was a long answer to a short question, but
no, it's
there's
great.
A lot of scenes that are great. There's a lot of trickery.
Love hearing you talk about it. Our friend Alex Taylor has a question for you. What cue should we listen to as soon as we get the album?
All of them.
All of them. Yes.
Ask the guys. Yeah.
All of them. I can't because they reorganized like the cues on the album. So like the names that I'm like familiar with, like when we were working on the score, is like a little bit different, I think, than what is actually there. I know some of my favorites are The End, which is literally that was a demo that Matthew made. We like seriously, like he's the reason he couldn't like even decide which ones are like his favorite, I feel, is because like seriously it's all so good. Like that one was like a demo that he had made to like get the job, and we just loved it so much that we were like, we have to figure out a way to put this in the movie. Like
nice.
And so that one's amazing. Anything involving Dylan's theme is incredible. There's, so I know it's not, I think that Matthew, correct me if I'm wrong, they combined it with the cue that you were just talking about, which is great, but the really dramatic mom scene, but it's not the one titled Mom, but it's because like they put it with something else, but it's actually cool because it's now attached to the one that you love, and then it goes into that other really awesome one. Those are some really big highlights. Like seriously, the score is incredible. It's so good.
It is, and it's out this Friday, so you can see the Djinn on VOD today, and you can get the soundtrack on Friday. Julian, thank you so much for you're a total trooper, you know, with your phone there and stuff. You know, if you want to turn off the camera, you know, give your arm a little break, we totally understand, you know, as long as you're still here.
No, I'm fine. I'm here. I just got to my car.
Oh, you're awesome. You're awesome. You know, what was your favorite scene to shoot?
That's hard. What was my favorite scene to shoot, David? You know, I don't know. maybe there's some. I really liked the flashlight scenes when we see the Djinn and we don't see him. We like peek around the corner, and then we flash the Djinn and then flash off him. I don't know, there's just some really cool moments there. It's very like tension filled, and I think the camera does a great work. You remember Ezra? I mean, you helped us out, and that we get like just flashes of the space and the Djinn.
Yeah.
Maybe that was cool, no?
Those are cool. I like those. Those are some of my favorite.
Yeah, really great scenes.
We were really dark. We were just like darkening out everything. I mean, it wasn't little at all. So we also felt like we were in the mood of this whole thing. You know, just creeping around corners and stuff. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, wonderful scenes. Really helped ratchet up that suspense. Those were some great scenes to watch. You want to add something, David?
I was gonna say, I know Julian's least favorite scene to shoot.
Tell us. Do tell.
It was probably the POV shot we see, the Djinn's POV shot that sort of goes through the whole apartment. It's like a 4-minute scene, and Julián does all the camera operating himself, so he had to carry this really heavy thing through the apartment by himself. No one else was in there with him. And then,
that was cool though.
It was amazing. It turned out amazing, but it was like, when it is one shot like that, if there's one thing wrong, like if you catch a reflection or if it's smooth, you have to, you know.
And I'm pouring sweat.
Covered in sweat.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
We did make him do that one a few times. I remember. I think that's why it wasn't his favorite, because you're like, oh, it's so perfect, but there's this one moment where it's just I had to do the whole 4-minute take again.
He's a trooper. He was a trooper, and you got it. And you know, just so well done to everyone involved. Congratulations again. Listen, I want to take a few minutes to go around and let you all talk about the projects you've got going on next. David and Justin, you have another film like right about to be released. Am I right? Tell us about The Boy Behind the Door.
Yeah, we're super excited. Obviously, we're excited for the Djinn, but our other project is called Boy Behind the Door. It's being released by Shudder on July 29th. Um, that's a really special project for Justin and I. It's a very personal story, and Ezra's also in it. We also have
Fantastic.
Lonnie Chavis in it, and it's just a great cast. We had a great cast on this too. I feel like we were lucky enough to have really great cast and crew on both projects. But we're super excited about it. Julian also did the cinematography on that one.
Mhm.
So hopefully, people that like the Djinn will like Boy Behind the Door.
Yeah, you got the dream team, and you're kicking them out fast and furious. That's fantastic. Tell us a little bit more, Justin.
Well, just to add on to that, yeah, we do have a lot of overlapping crew, which is great. And I feel like we didn't give a proper shout out to our amazing casting director who's not on this. But I mean, she is the one who found this legend of a child here for us. And like she, she did it for The Boy Behind the Door, which was, the budget is significantly bigger than the Djinn's budget, but still a very small budget in and of itself. And so she didn't have a lot of resources to work with to figure that out. And she got us, like, not just Ezra, but this completely stellar crew that were cast that we can't wait for you all to see.
Name some names. Name names.
We actually can't really name some names. There's some there's some like just they're the way that the story progresses is very it's fun. So you don't want to really know too much going in, even the cast.
All right. You definitely got me curious. If you're trying to get me curious.
There you go. We will stay curious. We'll just say that it has Lonnie Chavis and Ezra Dewey. They're the two stars. And they, once again, two youngsters have to carry this entire very dark movie on their shoulders. So it's a ride. Can't wait for you guys to see it. Beyond that, Dave and I have a couple other things that we're working on that we can't really talk about right now, but excited to hopefully have news to share soon.
Well, whatever it is, you definitely have to keep me in the loop, because big fans of yours at Dread Central. Can't wait to see The Boy Behind the Door, and really excited to see, whatever it is you guys are working on next. So fantastic. Ezra, Boy Behind the Door, excuse me, coming out just a couple months in July. Well, what else are you working on? Are you able to work during the pandemic?
Yeah, I'm able to, but I haven't done a whole lot more than The Boy Behind the Door. I've been kind of just auditioning around and trying to find some stuff, but I've done a little bit of modeling for like Gap and stuff like that. Some small stuff. But yeah, I'm just auditioning and trying to get another TV show or whatever I can get. So yeah.
Well, when more people see the Djinn, and from the sounds of it, Boy Behind the Door is really gonna knock people's socks off. I have a feeling you're gonna be getting those, callbacks pretty soon. Like I've been saying, I can't wait to see whatever you do next. So, if it's in the horror arena, you be sure to keep us in the loop, because definitely want to point people at whatever it is you're working on next. Matthew, what are you working on?
Right now I'm working on an Italian film entitled Whistle and I'll Come to You. It's based on the an old English author's story. I believe his name was Montague Rhodes James, I believe. And it's a complete departure from the Djinn. It's very classical period. It takes place in the 20th century, 1905. It's very kind of regal and pastoral sounding orchestral music, which is great. It's nice to be back working. Other than that, the summer, some of the things that got pushed back from the pandemic seem to be headed around the corner, and some other opportunities. But I've also been auditioning and pitching for some Netflix things, and kind of the next level of the career. So yeah, excited about that too.
Fantastic, fantastic. And can't wait to pick up the soundtrack to the Djinn this Friday. You can watch the
Apple
Djinn
Music.
now.
Yeah, Apple Music and Amazon, I believe, right? Is that where it's available, guys?
Yeah, it is. It is available on both. I already ordered on Apple.
Nice. And you'll have to let me know too if you get that vinyl release, because like we were talking about in the tech check, I'm a big fan of the vinyl. Gotten back into it.
Absolutely. This would be
yeah.
appropriate for this film too, if anything.
Absolutely, it would.
It would
You
be
know,
the most
something from
appropriate.
the 80s, you
Yeah.
know, on an album back when they were still making vinyl albums, and that's how a lot of us were consuming it. Julián, are you in South America on work right now?
Yeah. My life is kind of split between Peru and the US.
International
kind of put a hold on that.
cinematographer.
Yeah, and I try to get work everywhere. I mean, I love traveling and stuff. I did a movie again in the US after Boy Behind the Door this November and December with Alicia Silverstone and some other guys. It was cool, up in Montana, very, very snowy. You know, and that's coming out in a couple of months, I hope, which is awesome. I don't know, I work here a lot back home, a lot of commercials and stuff, good money, more than indie US film, I have to add. But I always I'm always here and there, you know, so I might have a few projects back in the US later this year, maybe something with the boys, who knows?
I hope so. I mean, you guys are a great team.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. You know, you mentioned you're not like a huge horror buff, but we're fans of you, you know, nonetheless. And anything you're doing in that sphere, we want to know about, we want to support, we want to get eyes on. So thank you so much for being here, and congratulations to you all on the film. Before we wrap things up, I want to give everyone one of the things I love is asking y'all why we should be excited to see this film, and you know what you're most proud of or what makes it special. Matthew, why don't we start with you?
I just think it's inspirational on a lot of levels, especially for indie filmmakers, that, you know, if you work hard, and I mean, you have to have incredible talent, but to make something this big out of what limited resources we all had. And I think that it's something for us all to be very proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. Julián, back to you. Why should folks be excited to check out The Djinn on VOD? Looks like you're muted. Or in space. By itself. Julián, are you there?
You did see
that? He'll come back. I have faith. But in the meantime, Ezra, congratulations on the film. Why should people rush to go check it out if they haven't already?
Well, you should watch it because it's super cool, obviously. And because it's different. Like, there's not a whole, I don't think there's a whole lot of films where there's like a little or a young kid who's mute in like this tiny apartment, and it's just cool because you're watching this kid try to figure out how to survive this tiny apartment and this big monster trying to kill him in ways that this kid would come up with. Like, he's not this little kid coming up with big, like, elaborate adult ways to stop this beast or whatever. He's just trying to like run away and hide and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for real. Well, you do a fantastic job, and I can't wait for people to check out this film and to be just as amazed as I am that you carried such a powerful film on your shoulders. Congratulations, my man. Good luck on The Boy Behind the Door. I can't wait to see what you're doing next. David, final thoughts on The Djinn and why we should be excited to go check it out.
Well, Ezra gave a really good answer. I would probably say, you know, if you like horror movies, hopefully it sort of hits that spot of, you know, more nostalgic callback, that 80s sort of vibe. But, you know, you should see it for Matthew's amazing score, Julian's amazing cinematography, and obviously, you know, Ezra's great performance. He just brings so much heart and authenticity to it. And it's like Matthew said, I feel like everyone on the cast and crew really had to pull together. And it's, you know, taking a step back from it, it is really inspirational as an independent filmmaker to think that, you know, you can really try your hardest, and if you collaborate and you're able to work with talented people, you can make something even if you don't have a lot at your disposal.
Authenticity, collaboration, key, 100%. Julian, are you there? Any final words? Julian.
I'm here.
There he is. What's up? Final
I'm
thoughts?
here.
Good. I was like, man, this could be a little unnerving if we have to end without having checked in with him. Any final thoughts on the Djinn?
I think everybody should watch it because it's at the end of the story, if you take away the suspense and all that, it's just a very heartwarming story about a boy that's trying to get his voice back to just be normal. I don't know if anybody else said that, but I just like the drama of it.
Very well said. Very well said. And last, certainly not least, Justin, final thoughts on the Djinn and why we should all go check it out.
Well, everyone has taken the best answers, but I'll say that check it out because it is just like a really fun, you know, simple ride. You know, it's something that was very special to David and I. We wanted to create something that, you know, felt like those kind of fun, like dark fairy tale stories, cautionary tale stories that we got to watch growing up. And like, I don't know, it's like, it's the kind of horror that I don't think that you get to see very often anymore, and feels like a good, you know, like fun, even introduction to horror. If you haven't really been introduced to horror, aren't really into horror, I think that it's a great gateway film for that.
There you go.
And yeah, also to just copy what everyone said, see it because of the great cinematography, the great score, the great performances. Another special shout out to our casting director, Amy Lippins. Thank you for finding Ezra. And just check it out because it's a, you know, small movie that's a testament to, you know, what you can do even with like really limited resources.
Yeah, limited resources, but it certainly doesn't feel that way. You guys did a great job. Congratulations on what you achieved. You know, I can't wait to see what you do next. Boy Behind the Door arriving on Shudder in July. But for now, you should all, if you have not already, check out The Djinn on VOD now from IFC Midnight. Thank you so much to all of my guests for giving me their time this evening. Thanks to my team at Dread Central for the support. Panelists, stick around for just a second, but to all of you tuning in, streaming, we're gonna say goodnight for now. Take it easy. Have a good one.
What do you think? We start thinking about the things we're missing. We forget about the things we have.
Don't forget to take a shower before bed. I'll be home before you get up.